Retired four-star U.S. Army general and Fox News senior strategic analyst. General, good to see you today. I want to get down to the bottom line here. So these two men are inside that villa. The list of people with them is long, but it's not open to the public. What do you hope they're talking about?
Well, first of all, I thought this meeting should probably have taken place later this year or next year after the staffs have really been able to, arm wrestle the issues to the ground and then bring in the top guys. But we are where we are here, certainly. I think it's a great opportunity for our president to reset the stage with Russia. And by that I mean to really put in front of Putin that we're not going to deal with what his #1 strategic objective is. We're not going to accept the fact that he wants to develop a sphere of influence with the former Soviet Union states in Eastern and Southern Europe, many of them in NATO, and it is why he is continuously harassing the Baltic states and Poland. It is why he's trying to weaken the NATO alliance with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline deal, which the Eastern Europeans are all opposed to. And the third issue deals with his obvious aggression for the non-aligned countries, Harris, and that aggression saw it manifest in the Bush administration in Georgia and also in Crimea and Ukraine and Syria. So these are major issues. The second thing is, tell Putin I'm not going to accept the fact that you're conducting a massive cyber warfare campaign against the United States to diminish and disrupt our democracy. That is over. If anything happens again from government hacking or from criminal hacking, we will counterattack to destroy the cyber infrastructure from where that attack came. And we will keep doing that until you get the lesson that we're not going to tolerate it. And what we're doing then is building up a deterrence and imposing cost.
So General,
that needs to be done.
What I didn't hear you say just then, because I'm sure you're reading about it too, is that, the Russians would like some kind of a suspect swap. Like, we'll give you who we think did the hacking and you give us somebody. That's not going to cut it. From what you're saying is, no, we need to stomp them back into whatever corner they were in so they stop doing this to us. I get that. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, in a new op-ed on FoxNews.com, wrote this. For years, Democrats complained that President Trump wasn't tough enough on Russia. While ignoring the facts, now President Biden has a chance to walk the talk. If Biden apologizes for America or casts pie-in-the-sky visions for cooperation, Putin will sense weakness and America's Russia policy will be in for a long 3.5 years. General, your reaction?
Yeah, certainly that. The one thing I would add, the other thing in terms of the consequences of the cyber attacks, we should institute sanctions that really hit his pocketbook, his oil and gas industry, and also expose his personal wealth with his cronies and oligarchs. That would get his attention. The other sanctions we've done in the past, he's waved them off. They've had no impact on him. We have to get serious with that. And that's the reality of it.
I just want to cut in and forgive me because I know we don't have much time here. What about this pipeline? I mean, we've had our own pipeline nightmares because of, being hacked by what we suspect Russian hackers, and nothing happens in Russia without Russian communist government not knowing about it. Like, are we holding them accountable for that pipeline in any way that you're seeing with Biden?
I haven't seen anything to that effect. Listen, we have significant capability here. In the 2018 election and the 2020 election, the president authorized Cyber Command to conduct a counterattack against the Russians who were interfering in that election. And public declaration of that, one by the President of the United States and second by Cyber Command, both indicated the success of that. Putin knows full well what our capability is. We just have to be willing to use it and recognize that this is a cyber warfare campaign. It's another means to weaken the United States democracy, to weaken our resolve, to weaken the people's confidence in the government. We've got to wake up that this is a massive campaign. It has strategic objectives to it, and we have to counter them specifically and hold Putin in this meeting accountable for it,
and
for sure.
And the world is watching this. I mean, you say that Putin, others know what we're capable of, too. I would imagine the world watches to see What will President Biden do or not do? Despite mounting evidence that coronavirus escaped from a Wuhan laboratory in China, has now refused to cooperate with international investigations. China's communist government doesn't want to cooperate, of course. Republicans have been questioning U.S. funding for the lab's research. And now Republican lawmakers are introducing a bill demanding answers from Beijing. Watch.
There needs to be an open, transparent, and independent evaluation of what happened there at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And the Chinese have not been willing to do that. I think we need to hold them accountable if they're not willing to do that. I believe the world needs to know, and the only way that we make that happen is to be aggressive, to be direct in what we expect out of China.
General, you have taught us on this very program so much about those laboratories in China. Take us into the next chapter as we move to try to get some answers.
Yeah, well, certainly, I thought it was quite lame by the G7 in their communique to suggest that the WHO should conduct another investigation. In fact, they didn't even use the term investigation. They called it a study. I think investigation was probably too strong a term for them, Harris. Yikes. But listen, that's not going to get us anywhere. Certainly, it is prudent to put together an international independent commission given what took place, and go after that, recognizing full well that China is likely not going to cooperate to provide us access to the scientists themselves and to the original data for the commission to examine. But nonetheless, it should be set up. And we should talk internationally about how are we going to hold China accountable, not just from the United States perspective, but how do we do this internationally? I think there's tension there with the Europeans because they're economically dependent on China, and they probably watered down the communique coming out of the G7. But this is where the President of the United States can exercise strong leadership. The second thing is, and we're not dealing with this, and we should be, is that President Xi consciously spread the virus. I mean, we know this. He shut down domestic flights coming out of Wuhan City to protect the rest of China, but permitted the international flights to go. Why did he do that? In my view, he did it because he knew he was going to have an economic setback, and he wanted the world to share in that, particularly Western democracies and America. He didn't want to pay a price, a unitary price for it, while the rest of the world prospered. That is criminal behavior, and that has to be held accountable.
And we now know, we knew this then, though. We knew then that somebody was vacuuming up the PPE around the world. And now the fingers all point to China because they were able to get themselves what they needed before everybody else could. And what helped and what you're saying, General, is, well, let's not have it spread as fast across our own country. Let's send it out so that we can protect ourselves first. And yes, share the burden of that economic impact of it all. Criminal is the word you are using. Study is not going to get it, as you said. They need to investigate. General Keane, thank you very much.
Great talking to you, Harris.
You too.